tonight's thought. Is it possible to be telepathically linked to other people in the world who were born at or around the exact same time as you? I was just thinking about that this week. There was something I saw on the news. Well, first of all, it feeds off of something I've always heard. There's been anecdotal evidence, meaning that it's not factual evidence. It's not based in science or whatever. It's observations by people who know, by twins, both identical and fraternal, that they experience similar feelings at the exact same time as their other twin, without the use of the five senses. When they're not in the same room or anything like that, and this is telepathy. So at the same time, I know this. I've always heard about this. Twins experiencing telepathic phenomenon with each other. There was an article that came out this week in the scientific journal called The Cell. Certain sets of people born with similar facial and body features. Okay, we call these doppelgangers. They actually share more than just, features by complete accidents of nature. They actually share similar DNA structures. So what's going on inside their body is the same as what's going on outside of it as well. Yeah, scientists are saying that there's so many people in the world right now, and there's so many different DNA strands that you're actually getting like repetition here. And they're saying, that the way that these people grow up, with this DNA, it essentially makes them twins. So can they telepathically communicate, even if they're not, related? So I was thinking about like putting this whole idea together. Okay, what if you were born at the exact same time as someone else, or around that same time? You grew up in a similar world. It's not necessarily nature, it's nurture. You were exposed to the same kind of environment. And I also think that if you have a doppelganger, you're going to grow up, because we live in a very superficial world. Our experiences are kind of informed to a large extent on how we look. Could this indeed spur some kind of a telepathic communication between you and a complete stranger? Are these thoughts that are going through your head also shared with somebody else in the world at the exact same time? I want to know this. Unfortunately, I was looking this week. I can't find a single database that can hook me up with. I shouldn't say hook up. That sounds like I want to have sex with them. But get me in touch with somebody out there who was born at the exact same time as me. Facebook isn't really a reliable source, but I'm also wondering, it would obviously work if I were to go to the hospital where I was born. Okay. And I mean, surely there were kids in that same hospital at the same time as me, born around the same time as me. And not only that, but growing up in the same environment as me in Alabama, right? Do we share some kind of telepathy, right? Yeah, I'm just kind of wondering about this database that should be invented. Because here's where I'm going with this, is that I think like all of us who were born on the exact same day at the exact same time, or around that time, right? I was born September 19th, 1982 at 9:15 in the evening. So anybody else who was born at that exact same time, it doesn't even have to be on the second, or it could be, you know, whatever, on an hour on either side of that time, right? We should get together and have a conference and see if we can like telepathically communicate with each other. Or, you know, better yet, you know, we only have to have this conference in person once, because if we actually are proven right, then we don't have to, we can just telepathically have the conference every year after that. You know, so you only have to pay for the plane ticket once to go to Geneva or Chicago or wherever we have this fair, right? This convention, okay, of September 19thers. We all get together, and then we get together in each other's heads, you know, and we have like breakout sessions and things like that. I think it would be, I don't know what we would talk about, you know, but it would be a good idea. And I think that this could actually start a new thing, right? I think this could start a whole new system of communication. Okay. No more telephones, no more email or anything like that. It's just the world communicating telepathically. Okay, so now I know what you're saying. Well, what if you want to, you know, send a telepathic email, a T-mail, okay, to somebody that doesn't share the same birthday as you? Well, here's the deal, because if twins can communicate, and doppelgangers can communicate, and basically anybody with similar life experiences can communicate telepathically, we can create this whole Venn diagram and involve the entire world, right? We can do this. This is really not that far off. I mean, if it works, we just have to all get together and figure out that it does. Of course, the downfall of this grand experiment is that telepathy is looked at as a very special thing. If you have it, that's kind of amazing. And if we all have it, then we wouldn't be that special anymore, would we? No. Well, from Birmingham, Alabama, this is the Midnight Citizen Show. I'm your host, Mike Booty. I want to welcome you in tonight. Thanks for joining me. Nice to have you again here on a Saturday night in the studio. And sure enough, I did find this app that that actually does connect people who were born on the same day. And it's not called Facebook. You might think it's called Facebook, but there are apps now, I guess, out there that are specializing in different niches that Facebook provides. You know, hey, do you like to message your friends? Okay, well, here's WhatsApp, right? I don't know. So yeah, we'll play that in just a minute. I find it kind of interesting, and I want to investigate it a little bit further, right? Yeah, we'll do that. Get to a lot of stuff. We'll play some music, right? We'll talk a little bit about Salman Rushdie getting attacked by a knife. Yeah, I'm looking through my notes. It's going to be an amazing show. Stick around. All right. So, yeah, I'm your host, Mike Booty, and yeah, if you've been following my show the last few weeks, you'll know that, well, it's the end of summer here, and I've been starting back classes at UAB, at the local university here in town, going for my master's in English, and you know, and it is strange. Just to be back there, I am going to be, on September 19th, me and everybody else who was born on that day at that exact time, will be turning 40 years old. Okay. So, yeah, it's a little strange to be a student, as a 40-year-old, in college, because you go in there and there's not really like, that's the weird thing about education, is that most people, get it when they're very young. So one of the things that I'm doing for my master's degree, in a way that I don't have to, take out loans and, pay them back, although there was a big announcement about that this week that could have changed my decision, to do what I'm doing, is I get my tuition paid, by the university as long as I work at the, University Writing Center. So I have to work in the Writing Center, which is the place where, every student, as a benefit, an entitlement of their tuition, gets to come there to seek help from so-called good writers. I guess I'm one of those, with anything that they need help with, academic related. So this week we helped some students write like their first essays for college, for their EH 101 and 106 classes. So that's kind of it. And I go in there as a tutor this week, having worked very few times in my life, with college students, even though I have, I've had my master's in education. I've taught for the last 10 years, in high school, or, I worked for a nonprofit, and then I taught for 5 years, English in a high school before coming here. And I go in this week. This week is supposed to be sort of like a training week at the tutoring center for me. Just go in and see how all the other tutors do it, what the correct procedure is. You have to fill out a form after the students come in, telling the professor what you worked on and, all that. And so I go in and just kind of sit there all week long, which is fine. I have a lot of work to do, and I can just do my work, for classes, for my English classes, while I'm sitting there. But there's all these other tutors who are coming in who are like getting to observe, the people who have been there for a while, the people who have seniority. They get to go in there and do these things. And they're just kind of saying, sit out here because, you've been teaching for a while, and we need to get the people who haven't done it as much in there to observe. And so this is a weird thing. I've never been at in this position in my life where people think that I know stuff. It's just odd. I know as a teacher, you're kind of supposed to be like, sometimes by default, the smartest person in the room. People just think that you know things, right? But I don't know. That's not always the way it works with, teaching high school students. They sometimes think that they know more than you, and sometimes they do. And when you're in a room full of other teachers, they always think that they know more than you. So it's weird to be in this position where they're not even like, asking me to train because they think that I already know, how to teach and tutor. And I told them this week, please do not give me the benefit of the doubt. I don't assume that I know anything, right? So yeah, just starting out this week and just being on campus with, a bunch of people who are, it's weird to think like half my age. I mean, even, not taking into account that I turn 40 next month. But that I'm 39, these kids are 18, 19, 20 years old. I mean, that is half my age. That's crazy to think about. Like when I started college in 2001, some of these kids hadn't even been born yet. I can't get my head out of that. One of the tutors I was working with this week, one of the girls who had been there for a while, she's 22 years old. And I was expecting this. Right? But I think like my big argument is that we should get to a point, where we should not expect this. Okay. We should not expect this. And I'll sort of talk about it a little bit later on, but this whole, debate that got launched this week when, President Joe Biden decided to forgive a substantial amount of, student loans. Okay. the world just kind of went into chaos over this. Just how dare these kids, get some of their student loans forgiven when I worked years to pay off mine, and I decided not to go to college because I couldn't take out any loans and all that. And all of these are totally valid points. But I think like what I find so refreshing this week, I really thought I was going to be very insecure about being a 40-year-old grad student taking classes with 18-year-olds and things like that. These kids that I was essentially teaching last year in high school. I thought I was going to be insecure about this, but I actually am not, because I think that this is what education should be. I think that like education should not come all the time at the very beginning of your life. You should pepper it throughout your life. You should constantly, if you want to, be going back to school. Because it is true, college is set up as this like ticket to success for kids. They go to high school and then they're told that, oh, you can not ever get educated ever again, do nothing, and you'll be a loser or whatever, or you'll work in some stupid job you hate, or you can go to this place for 4 years, this esteemed institution. Here's the money, but you got to pay it back. Okay. But don't worry about that, because you'll be making so much money when you get out of college that, it'll be just like a drop, in the canyon of your lifelong success. Okay. And this is wrong, and this is predatory, and everybody knows this. Okay. And what the reason I'm able to, be a 40-year-old student who wants to go back and wants to, reclaim education and continue to learn. Okay. Is because I got out of college the first time. I went and worked for several years. I decided I wanted to do it again. I wanted to, change career paths and get a master's in education. So I went back again without having to pay any money back, because we paid the money. I had the money, right, from working. And then, I worked 10 more years in education, and I got experience under my belt. I got a little bit of money under my belt, right? And so now all of a sudden here I am at 40 years old. It's something that I want to do again. And I think that is actually like the way that college should be sold. And that's, because now like we would have to, if people who had money and wanted to go back to college as a feasible alternative to, just continuing to work for many, many years in the job that they are educated to have, I think a lot of that would lead to less money being taken out on loan and a lot less misery in this world. But, that's just my opinion. What do I know? I'm just a college freshman. Oh. Yeah, I mean, all that being said, it's still weird, just especially as a former teacher who is now a student, just walking around, being in classes, right? And the kids are not paying you to teach them to talk. So I'm used to being in a classroom and being very vocal because I have to be. It's my job. The kids are paying, or at least their parents are paying money for me to teach them. But now in a class, it's back to old tricks. Okay, you're just sitting in there silent for like an hour and 15 minutes, listening to somebody else talk. And yeah, of course we can raise our hands and we can cast thoughts into it, discussions, but you can only do that so many times per class without being perceived as a teacher's pet by all the other students. Like, yes, I have this like fear right now. I don't want to be like, I want to be cool on campus. I want to be liked by the other students, by my peers, right? So I don't want to be like the nerd in class who has an opinion about everything. I you know, so it is odd. It's just strange to have to sit there, you know, for an hour and 15 minutes, constantly tempering yourself, you know, not to say anything. Okay. Yeah, but I knew that going into college, I was going to have a lot of things wrong about it. Just going back to school, you know, there are certain things that I was excited about when I started teaching 5 years ago, and certain things that I knew I was really pie in the sky about. Like I knew that as a teacher, the ideal scenario was to go into a classroom and have all the kids just sitting straight upright in their desks, you know, hands on their desks, just looking straight at me, smiling, you know, kind of like Jeff Spicoli in Fast Times at Ridgemont High when he's like trying to be good before he orders the pizza. And, you know, go in and the kids would laugh at all my jokes and they would get A's on every single test. I was like, that would be the ideal scenario. That can actually happen. It probably won't. And sure enough, when I went in, my realizations, you know, they happened quite quickly after that. Okay. I realized that, you know, these ideas that I had, these pie in the sky dreams, were not going to be realized. And I knew that, and that is part of just getting experience in the world. It's just knowing that, your best laid plans are going to be thrown right out the window the second you walk in the door. It's just going to happen. And I knew it was going to happen like this year too. Like, you know, going into grad school, I had these pie in the sky ideas that, oh, this isn't high school anymore. You know, the students want to be there. They're paying to be in this classroom. They can just go home and take a nap and do anything. Like, you know, they want to be in this classroom. Ergo, they should be excited about learning. They should constantly be talking and discussing with the professor and sharing ideas with each other. I knew that this was pie in the sky optimism. Okay. And sure enough, this week, a lot of those dreams were dashed, you know, very much like one of my classes, for instance, that has a lot of undergrads in it. This American Lit class I'm taking is, sure enough, you know, students not really talking back to the professor at all, just kind of sitting there and not really saying anything. And you have no idea what they think about anything that's being discussed. You know, right now we're reading a novel from the 1830s, called Shepherd Lee, which, by the way, is like about a guy who can kind of telepathically go into the minds of other people. No relation to tonight's show topic. You know, but you have just no idea what they're talking about. You know, I just, and I have to find, as somebody who is very interested, I mean, in the things, I mean, you know, when I was in college the first time, it was very hard to focus on what was going on in classroom, because you're more concerned about your social life. And I get that. But now that, you know, I'm here strictly to learn, right? It's a delicate balance between, you know, being quiet and trying to add to the discussion, actually making the classroom interesting. Okay. You know, but just try not to be that nerd. I don't want to be that guy. Yeah, but overall, so far, I'm really liking college. I'm just enjoying hanging around the campus, you know, sitting there on the quad, going to the campus dining hall, talking with the other students. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I kind of just want to go like full hog with this college experience, right? I may even, you know, I asked my wife this week, can we move into a dorm? You know, I was moving into a dorm with my wife. It'd be something. But this is something that does just lead me to wonder about just being in classroom and everybody really afraid to really speak. Okay. Just try to say what's on their minds, because these are kids. I know they have opinions, and they seem very often afraid to share their opinions in class. And I don't know if it's because they've got all these other, kids their age in the classroom who, it's like leftover trauma from high school or something. They're afraid they're going to be like beaten up after school if they speak out and actually like sound like they're interested in what's going on. But it's a weird contradiction, because I grew up, my generation is very often criticized as one that was over coddled growing up, that was always made to feel special. And sure enough, that idea, that coddling and that specializing, that's filtered itself down to the current generation, right? And so it's a weird contradiction that we all want to be so-called special. But at the same time, we all, want to blend in too. We don't want to stand out. And this is very true in the college classroom, as I found out this week. People are really afraid to speak out and stand out. Or they may just be, I don't know, hungover from all the first week parties. I don't know. But I just... Sure enough, I have to admit, definitely, I'm not going to defend my generation. We were told that we were special, that there were things in each of us, unique qualities in each of us that made us important, that we were going to be important, if not now, then someday. Something that was making us shy and introverted and getting beaten up by bullies now, someday was going to make us a lot of money. And these are the things that we were told growing up. And no doubt for some people that I'm sure it worked out just fine for them. Right. But growing up, I was always on the lookout for like special powers that I possessed. And just anything that I could find that would make me like, stand out or something like that. And, from a very early age, I was always on the lookout for these special powers. I think it was because like I grew up like reading X-Men, for instance, like the X-Men were just, a lot of them just kind of like, they were just like ordinary people. They just didn't really look threatening or menacing or anything like that. I mean, and sometimes you would get like a Wolverine who shot blades out of his arms or whatever, his hands. But, you would get like people like Gambit, who looked more or less perfectly normal, but they had like these, tremendous telepathic powers. Okay. And on the inside, they were actually very special, and they were different from all the other rubes that you just see walking around. So, and I don't even really think this is my generation. I think like that just we inherently do not want to be normal. We don't want to be boring. Most of us are observed by people as being boring, but we know that there are things that are going on in our minds, right, that make us different. And of course that's called, perspective. But from a very early age, I was reading X-Men. I also love this movie called Escape from Witch Mountain. If you remember, this is an old Disney movie from the 60s about these two kids. And I believe they were twins, but I know that they were related. They were brother and sister. And they had special telepathy. Not only could they communicate between each other, but they could also move things through force of their mind, through their own will. And I just became obsessed with this idea. I was like, maybe this will make me special. Okay. And so I went to my older sister, Melissa, and I asked her, maybe we're telepathic, maybe we're witches or something. I didn't suggest like, let's try to move things with our mind, like, because that seems a little bit too dangerous, but let's sit down in the living room and try to communicate with each other. Right. And just try to be telepathic. And I was really into this idea, and we sat there and just, there was absolutely nothing. I thought that maybe I could read into her mind, but that's really just kind of knowing what my sister was into. You know, she had like posters of New Kids on the Block all over the place and everything. And yeah, we were definitely not, we discovered that we were, definitely, you know, not witches, not like that at all. No, that was disappointing. It was. So, but then I was taken to a doctor one day, and you know, the doctor diagnosed me with attention deficit disorder. So the next day I go to the school and I'm like, "Hey guys, look at me. I'm attention deficit boy." Right? I'm so much specialer than you because I can't pay attention. I was all over the place. And then, come to find out, I inherited from my father, and also my sister has it too. It's like we as a family are special because we all have Tourette's syndrome, right? This Tourette's, right? Yeah. I'm Tourette's boy. Look at me, flying high. So, yeah, I was reading this week the book by Salman Rushdie. I talked about him last week, and I think we've got something coming up at the Video Street Video Store later on that's going to be a little bit more about Salman Rushdie. Yeah, but Salman Rushdie was stabbed a couple of weeks ago because I don't need to rehash it. I did a toast to him last week, drank some Elijah Craig in his honor. He's alive, but he was stabbed by a Muslim extremist. For, of course, in the 1980s, Salman Rushdie wrote a book that was a little bit critical of the Prophet Muhammad. And there's been a fatwa on him ever since, right? So Salman Rushdie wrote a book called Midnight's Children before the Satanic Verses. It's been on my shelf for like the last 3 years, but I finally decided to read it because a guy got stabbed who wrote it. So that's what it takes for me to open this book. It's a very good book, though, and for a while I didn't open it up because it just looked impenetrable. It's about India, which I've never been to. I have really no knowledge of India or Indian independence or anything like that. But it is essentially the X-Men, is what it is. It's about this kid who was born on August 15th, 1947. Which is at midnight, which is the day and the time of India's independence. So he finds that he has a telepathic communication. He can communicate with other kids who were born around that same exact time, on that same day. And he finds out that not only do they all have telepathic powers, but the closest to midnight that you're born, the better power you'll have. So, there are kids who were born at like 5 minutes after midnight who can like travel through time and dimensions. That to me is actually kind of better than telepathy. I would much rather have that than being able to look into people's minds because, hey, most people are boring, all right? They're not special. There's nothing special going on in there. And then there are people who are born an hour away from midnight who have like really no special abilities at all that are really just looked at as society's outcast, who maybe do have Tourette syndrome or ADHD. I don't know. Not to say that those are bad people. I mean, I'm one of them, right? But it's not really a special ability to have. It's more like a disability. Yeah, but I just I think this is interesting. This is essentially X-Men that Salman Rushdie is doing here. in Midnight's Children, and it got me thinking just about the ways that people who are born at the exact same time do perceive their world, because they may not be able to telepathically connect with one another, but they can perceive the world in similar ways because the world started at the exact same time for them. Okay. So if I think about when I was born, the major event that happened, I think the year I was born here in America, well, two things really. It's like the release of the movie E.T. the Extraterrestrial, which sounds kind of silly, but if you think about it, E.T. was really the big blockbuster movie of the 80s that kind of changed pop culture. And the E.T. eats Reese's Pieces in the movie. So the first time that companies really realized, oh my God, we can actually commodify movies. We can put our products into movies, and if people see like a cute little alien eating our Reese's, then they'll want it too. And that's something that's very much ruled popular culture ever since, and it really has become culture. It's really difficult to watch a television show now and distinguish it from an advertisement. Something we've dealt with. Another major thing that happened the year I was born was the Knoxville World's Fair in 1982, which I'm told that I was at. I think my mom was pregnant with me, so technically I was there. Really, the last big World's Fair that these World's Fairs, they go back centuries. These big exhibitions where the world is invited to come to one place and meet each other on like the Ferris wheel or the Eiffel Tower or something. Those are both big products of the World's Fair. The Space Needle in Seattle. In Knoxville, it was this big Sunsphere, okay, like this geodesic dome kind of a thing that was the big symbol of that fair. But it was a big, I think like the Knoxville World's Fair was kind of a joke. It was like sort of a big failure. And from that moment on, America said, no, we're not having these big World's Fairs anymore. So that was like the death of great American spectacle, in a way, I guess, perhaps. From that moment on, you had to go to a place like Disney World to see great spectacle on a grand scale, right? So I think that was it. But anyway, yeah, I think like what is interesting to me, it is sad that as I've gotten older, I find that I do not have, I don't have special powers. I don't have telepathy that I know of with anybody. I'm just kind of a sad, normal, boring person with a couple of interesting thoughts every now and then. But I will say this is fascinating, and this may be something interesting. By complete accident, I did start reading this book, Midnight's Children, on the very day that it begins, August 15th. In the book, it's 1947. It's 20. And now it's 2022. So I don't know. That may be something. Maybe I am telepathic with certain authors who have a tendency to get stabbed on stage. I don't know. That could be something. So anyway. All right. We're going to take a break now. Have I really been talking for 40 minutes? God. I made some coffee. It's cold now. I just got into a whole thing there. I didn't mean to, but anyway. All right, we'll listen to some music, take a break so I can drink my coffee, and come right back. You're listening to the Midnight Citizen Show. Thanks for stopping by. I was surprised about the other day, and I was talking on the show a couple weeks back about how some of these shows that you see, you used to watch on television like every weekday during the summer. It was just like the sound of summer to you as a child. You know, like the Price is Right or something, or like the soap operas, The Young and the Restless or whatever. One show that still comes on, I'm flabbergasted by this, and it's hosted by the same guy, is the 700 Club. Still comes on every morning right after the news. Hosted by Pat Robertson. You know Pat Robertson. This guy is proof. It's like this Christian talk show hosted by Pat Robertson, who's proof that, like, hate can keep you alive. This guy has got to be in his 90s. 190s, right? Told you I was going to tell you earlier. There was a there is an app that connects birthday twins. It's called Doppelmate, after I guess doppelganger. Double, is that German? German for double, right? Yeah, connecting birthday twins. 400,000 people, it says, were born on the same day as you. You all share the most important day of your lives, yet you are complete strangers. Not anymore. Our app connects you with your birthday twins across the world. We know you want to explore, so we are making it easier for you. Yeah. And yeah, there's a video here. Let's see.
Want to know a fact about your birthday? Around 400,000 people were born on the exact same date as you. You all share the most important day of your lives, yet remain complete strangers. Not anymore. You can now find your birthday twins, explore their lifestyles, and connect with them on our Doppelmate app. Download now.
Yeah, so that kind of explains it right there. Nothing really surprising. Hey, do you want to know other people who were born on the same day as you? Then, get Doppelmate. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's kind of interesting. It's just funny how apps can serve little to no purpose at all in your life. I mean, I'm pretty sure you can do that same exact thing on Facebook. I don't know, but I mean, just assuming that you really want to use the app, and you connect with somebody else on it who has the same birthday as you. What are you going to talk about? That you can't just talk about with somebody else. I mean, once you get past like the introductions, oh my God, you were born on the same day as me. Yeah. There is really nothing else to talk about that you wouldn't talk about with anybody out there, right? All right, maybe that's just me going and being the Midnight Cynical yet again. But yeah, well, welcome back though to the Midnight Citizen Show here on a Saturday night in Birmingham, Alabama. It's great to have you. All right, enough with this doppelgangbang. Yeah, we had some good music there. Yeah, first song you heard was this band called the Stompin' Riff Raffs with "You Shake Me." Another one we had, Delay 77. We've played them before on the show, but we invited them back to play Nothing at All from their album Don't Stare at the Sun. Yeah, we like them a lot. And you can listen to both those great tracks along with thousands of other amazing songs completely for free. And you can play those songs on your creative podcast, vidcast, YouTube cast, whatever you want, as long as you attribute them, which I just did. Available at the freemusicarchive.org. Thank you to WFMU for releasing all that great music to us for free. You can listen to my show on whatever platform you're currently listening to it on. You can watch the show at youtube.com/Mike Booty. You can listen to me on Stitcher, Apple Podcast. They don't call it iTunes anymore. They call it Apple Podcast. I don't know. Apple Music. Stitcher. Yeah, and just a lot of great platforms. MikeBooty.com/The Midnight Citizen. You can find my show there as well as back issues too. If you're regular listener, well, you know what it's like, but if you're new to the show, I do apologize. I feel like I'm a little bit all over the place tonight. Maybe you can tell, maybe you can't. If you're still listening to the show, then that means you're okay with it. But yeah, this has been quite a week, just not a week like any other week. As I said, school starting has really kind of gotten the better of me in terms of my schedule, just trying to keep up with an already mounting amount of schoolwork, just reading that I have to do and all that. It's just been quite insane, but I really am trying to keep going with my show here. It may be a little bit of a tough adjustment, and I may have to take some weeks off here and there. I'm just going to let you know, but hopefully not. My monitor keeps blacking out on me for some reason. Why? I got to fix that. It's weird. Anyway. Yeah, but I did try to hold fast to some traditions this week, and just being in education, you've got to base your life around some traditions in order to keep your sanity, in order to kind of have some things to look forward to, and being an education legacy, I guess you could say, right? Like I'm a teacher now. My little sister Melinda is a teacher. My mom was a teacher for 38 years. Got an aunt who's a teacher. We have traditions that have been going on in my family going back many, many years. And this week my wife has joined me in honoring one of those classic traditions, and that is going to Da Vinci's Pizza on the very first day of school. This is something that I did as a child with my mom. When I would have the first day of school as a student, she would have the first day of school as a teacher. We would do this going all the way back to, I suppose, about the mid-1990s. Maybe 97 or 98 was the first year we did it. And going on, many years, like every year my mom, even when I was out of high school and out of college, my mom would take us along. Well, my dad would take us along with my mom and all the children, anybody who was in town anyway, to have pizza, to christen the new year at Da Vinci's Pizza. And this week I went with my wife as well to Da Vinci's Pizza. And that was a nice tradition. And it's weird because for the last 5 years I've gone there every day on the first day of school as a teacher, and I thought that that's the way it would always be. But now, of course, I'm back to being a student again. So Yeah, but Da Vinci's. So yeah, there have been a lot of opinions this week about the whole college loan forgiveness program that Joe Biden passed this week. And here's another one. Yeah, this is just something that everybody has an opinion about on, you know, I've just been seeing nothing but opinions about this very controversial decision that Joe Biden made this week to forgive people of their student loans. Okay, so here are the basic parameters of it as I understand it. If you make under $175,000 a year, you've got a college degree, you've got college loans, the federal government is going to give you $10,000 to relieve some of that debt. It's not going to forgive all of it. And you also get until January before you have to make another loan payment. So that's the basic idea. There are some other details as well, but what they're trying to do, and by the way, Joe Biden is a progressive. Okay, this is what progressives do. They see problems and they try to fix them. And what it inherently means is that not everybody is going to get their way. Progressivism means that you're going to solve a problem today that's going to benefit some people in ways that it did not used to. Okay. And that's what being a progressive is. Okay. And there are a lot of people out there who say that, oh, this isn't fair. You know, I never had $10,000 relieved in my day, but yeah, these are the same people who have grown, been telling children their whole lives that life isn't fair. So, I mean, whatever. I don't know what you want from us. But here's the thing. Like, you may think me as a millennial student who doesn't have any college debt and never had to take out any loans or anything, that I would say, oh, this is a great thing. It's going to help out people. That's not necessarily like the case. I think it is good that, students are getting some of their loans forgiven, but I also think it's like, it's a fake olive branch. I don't know. It's like an olive branch that you get from the Hobby Lobby, for like Christmas decoration or something. It doesn't really mean anything. I mean, $10,000 always helps people, but when you're talking about college loans and debt forgiveness, that's a drop in the canyon. It's not, it doesn't really solve the bigger issue. It may help people for a very brief amount of time, but it doesn't really do anything. And as I said earlier, the real problem is that, people go into college, for several years at the very beginning of their lives before they have made any money. And what that means is when you haven't made any money, you don't understand how money works, how it's spent, and much more like how you get credit. You don't understand how credit works. Okay. So you're being more increasingly, kids are being introduced into adulthood through mountains of student debt, through loan applications that are given to them, like they're Flintstone vitamins. And they walk into orientation on the first day of college and they're being given Frisbees and t-shirts by credit card companies. At least that was my experience anyway. And thank God I was too afraid of credit cards. Like, I grew up, my dad was a banker. He worked for a bank. So I grew up to be afraid of credit cards. It wasn't until I was 32 years old that I essentially got over my fear of credit cards, along with my fear of most snakes. It's like, for all those people out there right now who are saying that, this is just another example of entitled millennials and Generation Z or whatever. They have to understand, they have to remember that really all of this unchecked, unregulated business in the 90s gave way to college being so expensive today. When I started college in 2001, it cost $300 to take a single class, which I thought was expensive. When I took a graduate class a couple of semesters ago and paid for it out of my own pocket, it was $1,700 to take that one class. And I would not be taking classes right now. I would not have quit my job to finish graduate school if my graduate school did not offer to pay for it all, did not look at my experience and be like, hey, we think you'd be a good asset to our program. Come on in and help us out a little bit, and we'll, pay for you to finish up your master's degree, right? So, and I think if that had not happened in my life, and I would still be responding to the news this week just as well, right? I think these kids getting $10,000, I think that's fine. I think that people who are angry that they've already done all this work for years and it's kept them from doing certain things with their lives that their parents were able to do at their age, like buy cars and get house and get houses, go on vacation, do all these other things that they're supposed to do at their age. I think they're getting mad at the wrong people. I don't think they should get mad at the government, or Joe Biden for giving people $10,000. I think they should get mad at the entire system that got us to this point, right? But I also think they should be kind of happy too, because here's what this loan forgiveness thing does for them, okay? It makes them realize, okay, and I'm talking to anybody out there this week who posted something on Facebook getting mad at all the things that you could have done had the government given you $10,000 to pay off some of your student loans, okay? I'm talking to you guys right now, okay? You got a college education. You paid back your loans, which meant that you proved to anybody who's ever going to give you another loan that you can pay something back, okay? So you've got all that. And you've got the education to get a job, which I know it's kind of a sham right now, and colleges sell you this ticket to success, but nevertheless, it is the system that we live in. Most occupations now require a college degree, and you've got that, okay? So it's in the past, all right? And just acknowledge the fact that Joe Biden, as a progressive, is going to do these things. You may not get, you may not get what they're getting, what these kids are getting, but you solve the problem for yourself already, okay? So just be happy about that, I guess. Yeah. And I think that's about, I know you guys are saying, oh, that Midnight Citizen, he's getting political, right? But I don't mean to do that. It's just I've been there this week, on college campuses. I've been on a college campus this week. Okay. I've seen how expensive college is. I've seen what you get for college. It's a nice place now. College is getting a lot of bad rap, a bad rap these days. But it's overall to me, it's like going to college in 2022 versus going to college in 2001. It's a welcoming, comfortable place, right? There's places, there's nice places to eat on campus now. Okay. There's places to sit down and just enjoy the day. And there's resources as well. My college right now for free is giving me Adobe. Okay. I'm able to edit my podcast for free because I have Adobe Premiere. That's not bad, right? So college is costing a lot, but you sort of are getting what you pay for. I think, that's at least what I've noticed this week, but But I still think the overall problem is that we need to address is that this misconception that education all has to happen at the beginning of your life, okay? Before you've made any money, before you've really gotten any life experience, okay? Before you really have decided that education is even really something that you want. You know, I was talking about this on the show last week that I didn't even really know. I was so out of it the first time I went to college in 2001. I didn't even know what I was doing there. Like, I graduated high school. I don't have to be here if I don't want to be. So why am I here? I didn't even know why I was there, really, most of the time in college, getting my undergrad. It's something that it's taken me basically 20 years to figure out, like, I want to do. I want to learn. I want to be in a classroom. I want to complete assignments. I want to read books and talk about them. Okay. Yeah. That's something that most people don't figure out when they're 21 years old or 22 or 18 or 19. They don't figure this stuff out, and yet they're paying a fortune to do it, you know, for the privilege, which doesn't make much sense to me. You know, they should get out of the world and do some things and then decide if their parents will let them. All right. So I think it's about that time. My monitor behaves. Again, I got to get this thing fixed. It keeps going out and out. To go down to that most wonderful place, the Video Street Video Store on the corner right there to watch some videos. Check out their stock. Yeah, it's fun videos to show you that I rented. We'll check these out and come on right back. This is the Midnight Citizen Show.
Hello, I'd like to welcome you to the Sunsphere restaurant. I'm Art Haggis, and I'm Director of Operations for Hardee's Specialty Food Service Division. The Sunsphere restaurant that we are now in is 265 feet above the 1982 World's Fairgrounds. The Sunsphere itself consists of 5 levels, the first of which is an observation deck. The second level is our main kitchen and our gourmet formal dining room. The third and fourth level, which I hope you will join us in during the fair, is a 288-seat restaurant. The fifth level is an observation deck during the fair and will be a cocktail lounge following the fair. Our hours of operation from 10 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock at night. Lunch being served from 10 to 4, dinner from 4 until 10. From 10 until 2, we'll also serve cocktails so you may enjoy the panoramic view of Knoxville in the evening. Allow me to share with you our bill of fare at the Sunsphere restaurant. Our luncheon served from 10 o'clock till 4 o'clock in the afternoon includes soups, appetizers, aperitifs, and dessert wines. You'll also want to try our special Sunsphere fruit plate, which is an assortment of seasonal chilled fruit served with yogurt and poppy seed dressing. At lunch, our entrees will include prime rib, roast loin of pork, rock Cornish game hen, and red snapper almondine. Our luncheon prices will range from approximately $6.95 to $9.95. In the evening, dinner will be served from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. And you'll want to include in your meal either our Canadian cheese soup, which is a creamy blend of herbs, cheddar cheese, fresh garden vegetables, garnished with bacon bits and chopped parsley, or our soup du jour, which is a special daily selection created by our executive chef, Rolf Tinner. Our entrees in the evening will include our English cut prime rib of beef, roast loin of pork, rock Cornish game hen, Alaskan king crab legs, prime rib and Alaskan king crab leg combination, or the Sunsphere country combination, which is roast beef and Cornish game hen. You'll also want to enjoy our special Jefferson Davis pie for dessert, which is a blend of apples, raisins, and assorted nuts served on a flaky crust. Among the great towers of the world, Sunsphere takes its place as the first major spherical building and the premier architectural structure of the decade. Please, join us atop the 1982 World's Fair, viewing the innovations and technological achievements of man. Gaze upon the wondrous scenery which nature has provided. Come and taste the view. Allow us to share with you a truly memorable dining experience in the 1982 World's Fair. Thank you.
Our first story is about a man who is still trying to dodge a bullet. His name is Salman Rushdie, and he was marked for death 20 months ago by the Ayatollah Khomeini, who declared Rushdie's novel, The Satanic Verses, an affront to Islam. Rushdie, who comes from a Muslim family himself, went into hiding. Somewhere in London, no one but Scotland Yard knows exactly where, Rushdie holds up in a series of flats, moving to another location every time Scotland Yard's special branch thinks it prudent that he do so. No one sees him but the police, who guard him day and night, somewhere not far from these famous London landmarks. The only way we could get to see him was to be taken to a secret location, which turned out not to be one of his hiding places, but a policeman's club on the outskirts of London. What are your days like?
Well, it's difficult to answer, really, because there's not such a thing as a typical day in a situation in which one frequently or infrequently has to move. You know, it changes. But by and large, I try and create a day which is as like the ordinary working day of a writer as I can. I mean, after all, writers are people who sit alone in rooms.
But at the end of the day?
At the end of the day, well...
That's when you go out and you have a drink and you sit with friends and you go to dinner
well, no, I don't do that.
So you go to the telly and...
I go to the television and I play, you know, I play chess against a chess computer, and I telephone people and I write letters, you know. I mean, I do what you do when you sit alone, you know, when you're isolated. You know, I get through it.
In a strange way, you're a hostage.
Yeah, I mean,
it's not Terry Waite or Terry Anderson.
No, I mean, nobody's chaining me to a radiator, you know.
Right.
But yes, I mean, I don't have certain fairly basic freedoms at present.
Have there been any bizarre experiences in your new life?
No, I mean, one of the strange things about being at the eye of the storm is that it's very still.
Yeah. You know, and protected and insulated.
Yeah, exactly. So it's bizarre and has been disorienting and all those things. But you know, if you have to choose, I think, in the end, whether you're going to get through something or not, and I decided I would.
This is what sent Rushdie underground. Frenzied Muslims rioting and taking to the streets around the world, demanding vengeance for what they believe is the writer's blasphemy against the Prophet Muhammad and his family. When the Ayatollah escalated the drama with his death sentence, Rushdie hit back with his own challenge 20 months ago in what turned out to be his last public statement before disappearing from view.
And frankly, I wish I'd written a more critical book. I mean, a religion that claims that is able to behave like this, religious leaders, let's say, who are able to behave like this, and then say that this is a religion which must be above any kind of whisper of criticism. I mean, that doesn't add up. It seems to me that Islamic fundamentalists could do with a little criticism right now.
You said, frankly, I wish I had written a more critical book. What did you mean?
I don't know. I suppose that was bravado, you know. What options do you have in a situation like that? You can either gibber, or you can, you know, say something.
Brave it out.
Brave it out. I suppose that's all I was toughing it out. But it wasn't a particularly accurate remark, I don't think.
You mean that you had no intention, or you did not feel that you...
I did not at that moment really wish I'd written a more critical book, no.
I can imagine. It was a very different Salman Rushdie we encountered, different from this proud, defiant author 20 months ago, very much enjoying his literary recognition as he boldly read mocking passages about the Ayatollah from his Satanic Verses on British television.
What is first uttered in the impotence of an overheated apartment becomes the fate of nations. Who has not dreamed this dream of being king for a day? But the Imam dreams of more than a day. Feels emanating from his fingertips the arachnid strings with which he will control the movement of history.
Given the nature of the Ayatollah's following and the promise of paradise to any of the faithful who execute the writer, we were struck by Rushdie's determined optimism about his ability to work out a reconciliation with Islam.
And it's been 20 months, just about, yes. And I mean, I have to hope that the atmosphere is gradually changing. I think there's various sort of signs that it might be.
Where do you get those signs?
Oh, just in the air, you know. And it seems to me that you know, in this country, I don't believe that that there are very many people actually who are seriously interested in doing me any harm. I don't believe that's so in the United States either. You know, I think most Muslims, like most people, are pretty reasonable. I think that actually the world contains very few bloodthirsty people.
It was hard passing on this next piece of information to Rushdie, but just 2 days before in Tehran, I had asked Rajai Khorasani, chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee of the Iranian Parliament, if he could foresee the lifting of the death sentence.
It is not going to be lifted. It cannot be lifted.
Because?
Because it is a religious fact, which remains there forever.
And there is nothing that Salman Rushdie can do?
We just don't want... We don't care whether we can do or he can do something or not. It's not our business. There are plenty of people who are doing wrong things. We don't care about them. We don't make any attempt to solve their personal problems. It is his personal problem.
And there's no apology, there is no amend?
No. No, it's wrong to speak of an apology. And it is a lesson to many other Muslims who should simply think of what they want to say before they say it.
We asked Rushdie about the passages from his satanic verses that have so outraged Muslim fundamentalists.
Yes, but Muhammad backsliding his wives in brothels.
Well, it's because it's not his wives in brothels. I mean, let's be accurate about this. It's not his wives in brothels.
What is it?
There is a brothel in the imaginary city in which the prostitutes take the names of the Prophet's wives. Meanwhile, it is quite clearly stated the Prophet's wives are somewhere else being perfectly well behaved.
Yes, but it's in the eye of the reader. It's in the eye of the beholder. And if you are a faithful Muslim...
Yeah, but let's be accurate at least about what it is. You know, if I'm accused of calling...
About your intention.
Yeah, but also if I'm accused of calling the Prophet's wives whores, I didn't do it.
What is there in Islam that has made it such a horror for you?
Well, I don't think it's anything in Islam, and I don't think of Islam as a horror for me either. You know, I mean, my entire family is Muslims. Many of my friends are Muslims. I mean, Muslims are no more or less horrifying than any other group of people on the planet. I don't think it's anything in Islam that's created this. I mean, what created this was a specific event in one country.
But there is something in Islam that makes the man who gets your head a reward. Forget the monetary award. One hears anywhere from $2 to $5 million for your head, but a reward beyond that, a spiritual reward.
I doubt that you'd find a lot of Muslims who'd think like that. You know, I mean, really. You know, I mean, go out on the street and ask him.
We did, right there in London.
Even today, unless he withdraws the book, he is in grave danger. Anywhere in the world, not just here, anywhere in the world.
According to the fatwa, he should be executed.
As long as the book is in circulation, in whichever form, and he refuses to withdraw it, his apology, in fact, is an insult. It's not an apology.
I mean, it's not just the nuts.
No. I mean, I know that, you know. I mean, what am I supposed to do about it? I am not, you know, an enemy of Muslims because, after all, they're my own people. You know, my family are Muslims. And given that, trying to explain the fact that I'm not this kind of creature with horns and a tail that's been painted, there is actually very little in the satanic verses that hasn't been, in fact, quite commonplace discussion in the Muslim world for hundreds of years. There may be ways in which it's done which have upset people, and as I say, I mean, that's, you know, I regret it, I'm sorry, but the point is it's there. And it is possible, I think, to increase that degree of understanding, and that's, you know, what I'd like to do.
The story will continue after this.
Yeah, it's that wasn't my normal rental from the Video Street Video Store. Normally I like to rent videos that are a little bit more upbeat, about video games and things like that. But I felt it was important to play that 60 Minutes piece from 1990. Simply because I've been talking a lot about Salman Rushdie the last couple of weeks. I talked about him on last week's show. I was talking about him to some people that I work with in the writing center at the university about him. And these are, students who are undergrads, half my age, who have no concept of Salman Rushdie, don't know about him at all. Which is, this is an interesting thing because these are English majors. But Salman Rushdie has been very much forgotten in the 21st century, I think, by younger readers. As have a lot. I mean, I think I'm getting off the point here, but most English majors are brought up to read classic literature, okay, like Madame Bovary and Pride and Prejudice and Anna Karenina and so on and so forth, and really very contemporary fiction, like literary fiction especially, is not taught that much and is kind of forgotten, so they don't really know that much. So this whole Salman Rushdie drama really was lost on them. They didn't know about it at all. And I was trying to explain it to them, and as I'm explaining it, their eyes are kind of glazing over me, not in boredom or anything like that, but I have this kind of feeling in the back of my head that they think that I'm bashing Islam because I'm talking about this guy, Salman Rushdie, who was stabbed by a Muslim extremist. And I don't really talk about Muslim extremists that much, but we do have this problem in American culture where we really are trying to be very careful around people of different faiths. And we're afraid that if we talk about one faith critically, then we're bashing the whole faith altogether. And so when I was talking about Salman Rushdie getting stabbed by a Muslim extremist, I was afraid that I was being perceived as like an Islamophobe or something like that. So I hope that's not what it was. And they were being very polite to me and listening to me. But this is an important event in like literary history. Salman Rushdie writing a book that 40 years later got him stabbed on stage in New York. And again, I'm not trying to rehash all this, but this is an important thing that I think people should be talking about right now. But that's just me. What can you say? I don't know. So, yeah, and before that, you had a video, promotional video from Knoxville's most boring man, talking about all the great dishes and delicacies they have at the top of the Sunsphere at the 1982 World's Fair in Knoxville, Tennessee, which was featured on an episode of The Simpsons back in the 90s, right? Remember Bart and his friends go on a road trip down to Knoxville because they find a brochure in the back of this car that says 1982 World's Fair, and they think that it's happening right then and there. But and I think they end up like knocking over the Sunsphere and it falls on the car or something. I don't know, but yeah. That was the Sunsphere. I don't know what, it's definitely still there, but the Sunsphere is not revered in the canon of great World's Fair monuments the same way that the Eiffel Tower is, or what else? The Space Needle in Seattle is. It's just kind of there, and I think it's just used for storage or something. It's like Knoxville's attic. I don't know. My friend Josh is from Knoxville. I'll have to ask him about that. Anyway, I want to thank you so much for joining me here tonight on the Midnight Citizen Show. If you lasted this long, you know, this is very much, I don't know if I feel right now that this has been the best show I've ever done, but I really do thank you so much for your support, for sticking around in this transitional time in my life. One of the reasons I started doing shows again and why I'm really trying to do them come hell or high water every Saturday night is because I really do want a record of this time in my life. As I was preparing to leave my job back in May, I wanted to go into the archives of the Midnight Citizen Show and listen to shows from right before I started my job, right? Shows from the summer of 2017. Just to like see where my mind was at, like just to see if maybe I've grown any more in headspace since before I started my old job, and just to see that I was, you know, just to see where I was. I mean, that's one of the cool things about doing a podcast like this, right? You can see where you are years later. And I couldn't really find anything. Like I was talking about like the movies that I saw and things like that. I wasn't really talking about transitioning to the new job. I think because I was exercising a little bit of cautious optimism. But right now I'm learning from that. And I'm really trying to put all my cards out on the table so that whatever comes next to my life, and I hope something cool does come next to my life. I don't want to be in this position for the rest of my life. I can look back on these shows and I can have them. So, really, like, I hope you are enjoying these shows, but I think it will help me further down the line. I will. My monitor keeps blacking out, and that's really driving me crazy right now. But yeah. I definitely have a record of leaving my job before the last job because it didn't end that well, and that still is the only episode of the Midnight Citizen that I've actually had to take down, to redact. And a few lucky people out there may have it, and you can listen to me rant about my old job. But sure enough, you cannot hear that. That has been redacted from the back issues, right? Okay. So anyway, but yeah, I want to thank you again so much for joining me on the Midnight Citizen Show. Until next time. Oh, I haven't even told you where you can listen to me. I have to tell you. Okay. Again. Okay. MikeBooty.com/The Midnight Citizen. YouTube.com/MikeBooty, where you can see me doing the show and you can see my monitor blacking out every 5 seconds. Yeah, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, whatever they're calling it now. Spotify. And OnSug, of course. I don't want to forget OnSug, the Overnightscape Underground. ONSUG.com, where you can hear me and a bunch of other people like me doing shows just like this one. Keep your eyes open.